Good morning, everyone. We'll go ahead and get started. I would like to start off by welcome and thank you for joining us on this short notice conference call. My name is Renata Rose, and I'm the head of operations and customer success. This is part of our level of support we provide to our customers on large-scale potential supply chain disruptions. Before we begin, I would like to go over some housekeeping. Just to remind you guys, all participants will be placed on mute. We will be accepting questions throughout the presentations. We encourage all of you to please submit your questions in the chat box or the Q&A panel. All questions will be answered at the end of the presentation. Now, I'm happy to introduce the Resilinc CTO, Sumit Vakil. Sumit, can you please introduce yourself before we begin?
Thank you, Rena. Hi, everybody. I'm Sumit Vakil, the Chief Product Officer of Resilinc and the co-founder. Thank you all for joining the webinar with us today. A quick background about myself. I run the R&D organization at Resilinc, so that includes the engineering, product management, and data science teams. I have about 25 years of work experience in the technology industry, bringing a variety of different products to market, including a set of security products around VPNs and firewalls as well. Today, what we are going to do is talk about the Sunburst SolarWinds Orion cybersecurity attack. So this is the one that, as we all know, been prominently featured in the news over the last last few days. So what I want to do today is first talk about what this attack is and talk about how it works, and then what we in the supply chain organization should be doing about it. As Rana mentioned, we will take questions at the last, but please feel free to start typing your questions in as I'm presenting, and then we will go through them towards the end of the session. If we don't get through all of your questions, we will make sure to get back to you following this presentation. Okay, so let's start with what the situation is. Basically, the whole idea is this: the attacker will get access to your sensitive corporate data, email, SharePoint, anything that is controlled through Microsoft products is likely to be attacked and hacked into, which puts your intellectual property, trade secrets, etc., that you have shared with your suppliers at risk. So why do I say that? Let's say your organization is secure, but you've been having email conversations, you've been sending files to your suppliers, they have all that information in emails, in SharePoint, etc. If they get compromised, all of that data becomes open and available to the hackers. And I would strongly encourage you during this this presentation today, to keep the following thing in mind. We're just not talking about direct suppliers here. Anybody can get impacted, anybody will be impacted. So even your indirect suppliers who process your employee data, for instance, maybe your health records, your employees' health records, I mean, your accounting firms can also be impacted in addition to your direct suppliers. So pretty much everybody can be hit here. The attack has formally been christened Sunburst. So you can either look up SolarWinds Orion, which happens to be the product that has been compromised, or you can look up Sunburst. Either way, you will get more details about this attack. So what has happened? The basics of it is the attackers have compromised this product that called SolarWinds Orion. SolarWinds makes this product called Orion, and that's been compromised. It is suspected, not proven, it is suspected very strongly that the attack has been launched by a state-sponsored group, and the primary suspect right now is called APT29 or Cozy Bear, which has in the past been affiliated with Russia's Foreign Intelligence Service, the SVR. Okay. The breadth of the attack is pretty massive. Almost 18,000 organizations, private, non-government organizations, and government agencies have installed this software. Okay, almost 18,000 organizations. So you can see how broad this problem is. It is not known how many organizations have actually been compromised. We believe that that number will really never be known. Okay, some organizations have come forward and have publicized the fact that they have been compromised, and you will hear a lot about it from the US government agencies and also from a company called FireEye, which I will talk about in a little bit. But for security reasons, you will not get the names of most companies that have been compromised for a long time, if ever. So the most conservative thing to do here is to assume that almost 18,000 organizations could have been compromised. Here's one of the worst things with the attack. It started in March 2020, okay? So it goes all the way back there. So for almost 9 months now, this could have been going on. That is a huge amount of time for attackers to be damaging, causing damage, to be stealing trade secrets, any other information. The way it works is there is this malicious software that has become part of SolarWinds Orion, and that takes over the server it's installed on. Then it steals administrative level permissions from Microsoft Active Directory, and then it targets specific accounts of executives, IT staff, and those email accounts that IT staff tend to create for their internal purposes. Once you get access to these kind of accounts, obviously there's a lot of damage and there's a lot of theft you can perform. How was this hack actually first discovered? So this is where FireEye comes in. FireEye is a very well-known security firm. Among many other things they do, one of the services they provide to their clients is that they will go in and do a deep assessment of all the security issues that a client's network could have. To do that assessment, they use a set of tools that they call the red team tools. When I say tools, I'm talking about a set of software. Okay, so they would come into your organization and they would run these tools, these software packages, and the software would pick up all the problems that hackers could exploit in your network. What this attack did to FireEye is it went right after those tools. So the Sunburst attack actually caused FireEye to lose their red team tools software library. Okay, so now the hackers have access to this. This is how it first got discovered that an attack like this actually exists today. Okay, and this was only recently discovered. Okay. The big worry that experts have is only a few attacks related to, to this hack, to this compromise, this exploit have been discovered, and there are a lot of latent, hidden attacks that are waiting to be discovered. So really, what that means is experts don't actually understand the scope of the problems that this hack could have introduced in a network. Another way of saying it is there are some issues that have been identified today, some mitigations are available, but nobody knows if those are going to be sufficient, and nobody knows when other attacks, if any, other things that this hacked software may have done to your network, when those will come to light, nobody really knows yet. Okay. Again, I will leave you with this. Nobody really knows exactly everything that this attack could have compromised in a network. And since it's been operating for the last 9 months, it's going to take a long time for organizations to figure out what, if anything, has been compromised, what kind of data they've lost. Okay, so let me explain the attack in a specific way. In order to, so what you will hear in the in the public domain, in the news, is the software supply chain got hacked. That's one of the first questions I get asked, right? Software supply chain, do I need to worry about my own supply chain? So it's not a supply chain as we in the supply chain business think about normally. And but the best way for me to explain it is by starting with what we understand in our manufacturing supply chains. So I will use our manufacturing supply chain as a starting point, and then I'll explain how what Sunburst has actually done to the software supply chain. Okay. So this is our normal manufacturing supply chain. Let's make up an example of a smartphone, right? There is smartphone assembly happening, some variety of steps get done until that final product is created, the final smartphone. Now, what if, by the way, this is not real, okay? I've made it up, so don't worry, your phones are not hacked. What if during this assembly process on the manufacturing floor, somebody inserted a chip, a malicious chip, secretly inside every smartphone? Okay, it's been done completely covertly, so nobody knows this happened. And now every smartphone coming off of that assembly line has this special chip installed in it that the hackers can then exploit. This, of course, is not possible, obviously, because just opening up a smartphone is not going to tell you what its design is. You can't just randomly put a chip in there, etc., right? So attacking a hardware supply chain like this is very, very difficult. So again, don't worry, your phones are not compromised. But imagine what could happen in a situation like that if it happened, right? Along the assembly line, your phone got hacked, somebody put a chip in it, so every single phone going off of that assembly line has this secret chip in it. What could a hacker do with it? Well, it's on your phone. You have all your communication on the phone, including your work email in most cases, right? For most of us, your personal and work phones are the same. Your personal email, work email is all in one place. So all your communication is on that one phone. Now, what these hackers would do is collect your passwords, right? Your email passwords, for instance. They don't care about stealing money here. Let's be very clear about that. Okay, it is not that kind of an attack here. Remember how I said it's a state-sponsored, most likely a state-sponsored organization that ran this hack. So espionage is their main, a view here is their main objective here, not stealing cash from somebody's bank account. So think about that when we think about a compromised phone. They get all your passwords, but what they're really after is your corporate account, your corporate email. Your work email is compromised, so now they can get into your work email, maybe exploit that to get to your colleagues and run all sorts of attacks and really get into your organization, right? So this is what would happen with the hardware supply chain. Now, software tends to have a similar supply chain, right? Where does it start? Programmers write code, right? So this is that pseudo English that they'll write in Java or C++ or Python or whatever, right? And then there are a set of tools, compilers and such that programmers will use to convert that pseudo English into bits and bytes that computers understand. And then that whole bits and bytes package is digitally signed to provide validation and authentication that, yeah, this is genuine. Yeah, this came from SolarWinds. Now, in that tool chain, in that set of tools that that SolarWinds used to create its own software, somehow the hackers got in and they inserted malicious software. That malicious software was now able to inject into the SolarWinds software itself this attack, this hack that has opened up all these vulnerabilities in the networks. Okay, so again, the software also goes through a set of steps to get to the final product, which can run on a server or a laptop or a PC or what have you. And during that supply chain, the hackers got in and they compromised the way SolarWinds is creating this Orion software. So now when any organization installs it on a server, then the hacked software gets installed, and what it does is it compromises the entire server that SolarWinds Orion is running on. Now, SolarWinds Orion is one of those pieces of software that is extremely widely used in medium to large sized organizations. It is used to monitor networks servers, and so on. And again, it is extremely extensively used. By its very nature, because it monitors such a wide portion of a network, your servers, and so on, it has very high levels of access configured in Microsoft Active Directory. And Microsoft Active Directory is what controls all your access to email, SharePoint, and so on. So now what SolarWinds Orion will do then is because it has all these really high level administrator level access to Active Directory, it is able to steal credentials. It is able to impersonate people, pretty much anybody in an organization. And as a result, it's able to get to passwords, get to ultimately to email, SharePoint, pretty much anything that whose access is controlled through Microsoft Active Directory. Okay, so so briefly to summarize, during SolarWinds creation of software, the malicious hacker software got injected in along with SolarWinds. When SolarWinds Orion got installed on the server got compromised. Because SolarWinds Orion has such a high level of permissions and privileges granted to it because of the kind of work it does on a network, it is able to get into Microsoft Active Directory and create fake accounts, steal account access, and so on, and ultimately get into employee emails, SharePoint, etc. Okay, and as we know, in most organizations that use Microsoft products, that use email, SharePoint, etc., a lot of critical sensitive information sits in email and or SharePoint, and other services that are depending on Active Directory for access control and authentication. So that right there is the big issue here. Pretty much anything that's intellectual property, pretty much anything that's sensitive, can now become accessible to the hackers. So what is it that we can do as a supply chain organization? You might think, oh, this is an IT problem, right? But it's not really an IT problem, because IT is going to be looking at your own organization. They're going to be busy trying to make sure this isn't impacting your own organization. In the meantime, we have suppliers, direct and indirect, who we share so much confidential information with. What is going on with those suppliers, and should we be worrying about those suppliers and their networks? That's what we need to figure out first, right? So that's the most urgent thing that we need to do. Are our direct and indirect suppliers compromised in any way? Like I was saying earlier, it is not really easy to figure out whether a network has been compromised or not. So then have these suppliers of ours started putting in mitigation plans. There are a set of recommendations that have come out from the US government Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, or CISA, and Microsoft. As suppliers and as companies start implementing these recommendations, some of the known issues start getting addressed, and we start getting some level of confidence that, yeah, these companies have recognized the problem, that they're doing something to address the hack. And if they are one of those companies, of those 18,000-ish companies that could be impacted, they're put in mitigation. So, at least the known attacks can no longer leak data. Okay, so how do we do this? So what we did at Resilinc first is created an assessment that is very specific to Sunburst, this new cybersecurity attack, right? We're not talking about a massive, huge survey with hundreds of questions here. It's short and just 30 questions. So it should be really quick for a supplier to fill this out. The primary goals of this survey are: one, does this supplier run the software that could be impacted, that has been targeted by the hackers? And two, have they implemented the mitigations that have been recommended by the CISA and Microsoft? Okay, so those are the first things we strongly recommend that you do. Now, this assessment is already available in the Resilinc system, and you should be able to get to it right after at the end of this call. So it's there available for you. Work with your CSMs, and they will help you get these assessments launched if you need help with that. If you have questions about that, we are here as well. That's a really good starting point, but it's not enough. You're going to need to be vigilant on an ongoing basis. All the security experts agree that the scope of this attack could be far broader than what has been identified so far. It is entirely possible that new threat vectors are discovered in the future. It's entirely possible that this hack has compromised other systems in the network. Nobody really knows. Okay, so suppliers will have to constantly be monitoring their Active Directory to make sure that fake accounts, elevated permissions, etc. are not there. They're going to have to be constantly vigilant to make sure that they're on top of the latest and greatest findings about Sunburst, and that they're implementing the latest recommended mitigations. And the only way to make sure that this is happening, and that you are comfortable and confident that your suppliers are doing everything they can to protect your IP, to protect your sensitive data, is you will have to come up with a process where you are going back to the suppliers on an ongoing basis periodically to refresh the information collected from them. So that's all we had today. And hopefully this gives you a much better idea of the extreme severity of the situation, and why it is so important for supply chain organizations to act, to reach out to suppliers, direct and indirect, and start assessing whether they are impacted, in order to allow you to assess what the potential impact to your intellectual property, your sensitive employee information, your sensitive company information could be. So with that, let's go into Q&A. Rana, do you have any questions that you would like to read out to me?
Let me look. I apologize. So Sumit, we've already let the customers know we're impacted, but we're not impacted. But it would be great if we can just reassert that we are not impacted.
Yeah, thanks for that question. Yeah, so Resilinc is not impacted at all with this situation, and let me explain why. This attack was very, very specific to SolarWinds Orion. And SolarWinds Orion is software that runs on Microsoft Windows. So it has to be prepared in a specific way so Microsoft Windows computers can understand it. Resilinc does not develop any kind of programs like that. So our own product does not use any Microsoft Windows technologies. So our product itself is not impacted by any means. And we use Linux extensively there, or throughout. Our offices, our office infrastructure, our emails, etc., are also not impacted because we do not use SolarWinds Orion at all. As I had mentioned earlier, SolarWinds Orion is software that medium to large size organizations use, who have really massive networks, servers, data centers, and so on. And that is not something that Resilinc has. So we don't even have SolarWinds Orion or any kind of SolarWinds products for that matter at Resilinc.
Great, thank you, Sumit. The next question I have is, why shouldn't we leave this just to our IT and let them figure it out? Why should we and our customers and our point of contacts and our operations team be involved?
That's a good question. So there are two parts to this. First is, right now, your IT organization itself is going to be scrambling to figure out whether your own organization is impacted or not. Okay, they are in fire drill mode right now. This is a massive crisis for them, the kinds of which they have never seen before. Okay, never. And so they are completely busy trying to figure out whether you yourself are compromised or not. And they're not going to be thinking about, are the suppliers impacted, and so on. Also, when it comes to supplier relationships, whether they are direct or indirect suppliers, that resides with us in the supply chain. And so the best organization, the organization best suited, I should say, to be able to collect this information happens to be the supply chain organization. And so let's get ahead of it. Let's get all this information collected from the suppliers. So one, we have confidence there, and two, when IT departments are ready, we have something to give to them. We don't, typically supply chain, as you know, in disruptions tends to be, in diving catch mode, right? Let's save the day at, with some heroic action at the very end. This is our opportunity to actually come out ahead for a change. Okay.
Great, thank you. I have another question, Sumit. It is, you mentioned that the questionnaire is available on the tool for immediate use, and I can actually go ahead and answer this one. So yes, the assessment is already available. As Sumit stated, that we have created a specific assessment just for the SolarWinds cyber attack, and it is now available in the Resilinc library. I would also like to add that with this, we have giving free 50 assessments to all our customers. We are a partnership and we value this partnership. So you guys will all have access to this assessment in the Resilinc library. And I would also like to add that my team has already been trained and ready to assist all our customers through this disruptions. So we will be happy to help you launch this and work with you through this. All right. So then, I'm sorry, I'm trying to get to this question. Will an increase of frequency or password change, sorry, I'm having will the increase in frequency or password change weekly reduce organizations' potential exposure from future attacks?
So that is one of the things that you could do, changing passwords more frequently. However, the bigger issue with this attack is that it runs at administrative privilege levels, which, for most of us, we do not have that level of access in our organization. So even if you change your password, this attack, because it has admin level accesses, it actually doesn't need your password. It can just go around and still get into your email and SharePoint. So it is more of an organizational level change that IT teams will have to make in terms of scrubbing through, making sure fake accounts are not there, genuine accounts have not elevated permissions, looking at some specific anomalies in usage. For example, one of the things that the CISA recommends is, are you seeing some strange logins? Like the same person is logging in from California and the UK within 5 minutes of logins. That clearly is not possible, right? I can't be in California and the UK at the same time, or can't get from one to the other within 5 minutes. So those kind of anomalies also IT organizations are going to have to scan for. So as much as it is good practice and you should be changing your passwords frequently, you should be using really strong passwords. That is much more IT organizations will have to do.
Great, thank you, Sumit. I've got another question. Is there a risk if we do not use that software ourselves, but some of our suppliers do?
So the risk happens in the following way. The short answer is yes, there is risk. And the longer answer is that if your supplier's network is compromised, then anything you have sent to the suppliers over email or any other means could potentially be exposed to the hackers. Again, look, we know, right? There is so much correspondence that goes over emails. We send files, we send, instructions, build plans, and even if things got sent a different way, let's say through a secure FTP server, chances are pretty good your suppliers downloaded that and put it on SharePoint. So, if your supplier is compromised, your data is likely compromised that way. Now, could something leak from your supplier side and infect your network? So far, no such attack has been found where the supplier network was compromised and then it infected your network. That has not been found yet. Doesn't mean it does not exist, because one of the biggest concerns that security experts have with this attack is that just the scope is not known.
Great, thank you.
One other thing I should add, social engineered attacks are entirely possible with this, because in that case, they don't need access to your network. They have access to the supplier emails. So while they have not been doing the following yet, they certainly could, right? They could easily impersonate your supplier user and send emails on their behalf to you. Again, this is not something this attack does. It rather sits there and passively just reads stuff. It is not actively sending stuff out. But social engineering in hacking is a very well-known exploit.
Great, thank you. Another question, what if I find out that one of my suppliers is impacted? What are the recommended actions?
Okay, so your supplier, of course, has a set of mitigations that they should be working through. And if their IT team doesn't know of that, obviously that's a big concern. And that should be a massive red flag on your side. But if your suppliers are working through it, what your action should be is to work with them to identify what, if anything, that is your sensitive data, your IP, your employee data, your financials, etc., that have been exposed. So meaning you need to work closely with your suppliers to understand what has been leaked on their side, if anything at all. And if you look at your contracts with your vendors, chances are pretty good that those contracts will have clauses that ask your suppliers to disclose within a certain period of time what, if any, information has been lost.
Thank you. I have a couple of people that are asking if these slides will be available after the webinar, and I will go ahead and let everybody know that the slides and the videos will be shared with all participants after the webinar today. All right. All right, it looks like we've got a little bit of time left. If there's no other questions. Oops, one more came in, hold on, sorry. Is Resilinc going to notify us if more companies announce impact in coming weeks?
Yes, certainly. We are paying very, very close attention to the situation as it evolves. If companies announce publicly that they have been impacted, we will definitely pick that up and let you know. Just bear in mind that many companies may not make public announcements for security reasons. It is entirely normal. It is entirely possible they may not do it publicly, but contractually they may be obligated to report to you if your data is lost, and that information will obviously not be in the public domain. That they should be communicating to you directly.
Okay. There's a next question, and I can go ahead and take this one, Sumit. This is, are you sending out link to the survey? All the survey that we have made for this cyber attack, for the SolarWinds Orion cyber attack, is in the library. So when you log into your customer portal, you'll be able to see it in the list of all the assessments. The customer success team, as well as tech support, and all of us are here to guide you guys on how to get to this assessment and view it. Also, one more question came in, Sumit. Do companies know exactly what data might have been stolen?
Unfortunately, they may or may not know. And this is where companies will have to do deep forensic analysis. They will have to look at things like logs, if they're maintaining logs on who accessed SharePoint, when was SharePoint accessed, what data got downloaded from there, who accessed that other software system that uses the same authentication, right? Who logged in, when, from where did they log in, what did they access? Until IT organizations do that deep forensic analysis of their systems, they may not be able to tell for sure what got leaked.
Great. What we'll do is, just to make it easier, when we send this assessment, when we send this presentation out, we'll also share a screenshot of the just what the assessment looks like with a few questions. So you guys will have that along with the presentation. One last question I do have is about the assessments we have. So this will be the last question before we log off. We will continue to, of course, be available for you guys. Yes, you guys did hear that correctly. We will be giving 50 free assessments to all our customers. And yes, we will be available to help all of our customers through this process. All right. I hope this was helpful to all of you guys. We will continue to assess this, the situation, and as needed, we may do more webinars. Sumit, any additional information you'd like to add?
I just wanted to thank everybody for attending. The questions were amazing. Please continue to monitor the situation along with us. As Rana mentioned, we're paying very close attention to it. We will get as much information out as we uncover. We will work closely with you on these assessments as well. I think working together as an industry, working to with our customers, with our suppliers, on everybody working together is really the only way to get ahead here and to ensure that the situation is contained.
Great. Thank you very much, Sumit. Thank you for your time. Thank you to all the participants. Thank you so much for taking the time and listening to us today. Like I said, we will be sharing this. Have a great rest of the day.
Thank you.